is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820, WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
All right, 4 minutes after the hour. Well, right before I went off the air yesterday, I played for you a pretty lengthy Man on the Street covering the Women's March this past Saturday. And if you listened and didn't know, if I had not told you, oh, here's the Women's March, you would have thought it was a bunch of protesters that hated Trump and hated conservatives and hated rules, regulations, guidelines, you know, all those things that keep us from being a third world banana republic. You know, the things that keep us from being thrown into anarchy. In any case, I had several calls immediately following airing that from women that said, who are these people? You know, these people need to learn how to become ladies. Well, the question is, who's going to teach them? I mean, we've got a class in college and higher learning for just about everything else, gender identity, you know, Asian transsexual studies. I mean, we've got just about anything. I don't know that there are, well, there used to be, before my time, I've heard about them, finishing schools. Remember that? Remember finishing schools? Yeah, it's where young ladies would go and they'd walk around with books on their head so they'd have proper posture and learn manners and etiquette and that kind of thing, right? Maybe we need to bring that back. Well, so many of you were depressed and outright angered by this thing. I thought, well, you know, I need to give you some respite. I need to give you sort of the other side. Now, it's difficult when you're going out on the street, unscripted. You haven't selected these people in advance, so, you know, what they say is what they say. But there are some young people that think maybe we're going in the right direction. You guys know who Tommy Lahren is? She's on Fox quite a bit. I think she's only like 24, 25, maybe 26 years old, doing very well for herself. Unfortunately, for Democratic guys, she's a conservative, very conservative. I don't know who screwed her head on straight, but they did a good job. In any case, she went out to do a Man on the Street, so I thought I'd start with this to make you feel just a little bit better.
All right.
That's what I'm
Yes! We're coming upon the 1 year anniversary of President Trump's inauguration, so I'm out here trying to figure out what Californians think about his first year.
I think everybody's pretty convinced that it was a failure.
Let's face it, he's done an amazing job. He's done, in 1 year, he's accomplished more than Obama did in 8 years.
I read vibes, and I don't like his vibe at all. So
You don't like his vibes?
I don't like his
What does that
vibe.
say?
It says Make America Great Again.
Hey, so how about this? That bull up and his wall. I'll take it down if I can.
So we're out here asking folks in West Hollywood how they feel about President Trump's first year. How would you describe it in one word or one sentence?
Idiot.
I think it's really great. I kind of back him up. I mean, some of the things he says, or we're not on Twitter, I don't necessarily agree with all the time.
Do you read his tweets?
Yes, I do.
Do you find him funny?
I feel like it's funny because he's saying whatever is on his mind, but he's doing too much. He's doing too much. As a president, he need to just relax a little bit. You know?
Trump's a bit unpredictable, so you don't really know what he's going to say the next day. He could say something tomorrow that, you know, just like blows everything up.
What do you think of his first year in office?
You know, I'm going to pass on speaking on that.
What do you think about his first year?
Stellar.
I'm bringing gifts.
I don't want that.
You want? Why not? I'm guessing you don't want a hat? Okay. Are you sure? It's an official. It's an official. It's a collector's item.
Trump and his policies.
If you were to describe President Trump's first year in one word or one sentence, what would it be?
Effective.
I love it.
Yeah,
We're
there
just
we
out
go.
here in West Hollywood asking folks how they feel about President Trump's first year. How do you feel about it?
It's been rough for everybody, but I think that we should come together as a country and support whoever we have in office no matter what.
What do you think of the first year?
I think the first year is absolutely phenomenal, and I think 3 more are going to be over the top.
What about a tax cut for 80% of Americans?
What?
A tax cut for 80% of Americans?
I don't pay taxes. Taxes. Your taxes stupid. And so all y'all. Yo, stupid. Yo, pay me.
Well, thank you for your opinion. Free speech. Did you want a hat, sir?
Oh, Lord. And you wonder why this country is teetering on the precipice of just being totally annihilated. Not by ISIS or Al Qaeda or Hamas, Boko Haram, none of those people, by the people we're developing in this country. It's just absolutely amazing. You know, I told you we're going to start a feature called the Millennial Hour because I fear for this nation's future. I mean, you know, if you've got little kids, man, you just must be beside yourself. You know, where do you send them to? Not public school. Don't send them there unless you want them to be socialized. If they come home from public school in elementary school, and, well, what'd you learn today? De Fuhrer is never wrong. I mean, if they start doing that, you know, you're in trouble. I'm going to say this, and I'm not talking about you. I am talking about the people in Washington. I'm talking about the Democrats, specifically in Washington. I don't know how much further we can go with these folks. As a matter of fact, we've got a recording. Do we not? We've got a recording of one of their private meetings. They have these little Democratic rallies before they get together and go to the House floor. And it'd be interesting to see what they had to say, wouldn't it? Okay, let's do that if we can. Sort of give you a behind-the-scenes look at what the Democrats are all about. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good at all, does it? Yeah, so much for the comparisons of Trump to Hitler. Let me say this, I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. All Democrats working in Washington, D.C., I believe, starting this year, 2018, it's a time to start new things, right? A time for New Year's resolutions, a time for people to take back their country. All Democrats working on your behalf and on behalf of the country should have to undergo psychological evaluations just to find out if they're clinically nuts or not. Because based on most of their legislation and most of their ideas, and granted, I'm going by Chucky Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. I'm sorry. What was I saying? Nothing, Nancy. It's fine. I'm talking about the lead Democrats. I believe they should have to undergo psychological tests. I mean, if you drive a bus, don't you have to, whiz in a cup and make sure you're not under the influence? Of course you do. If you're an air traffic controller, you have to take those stress tests. I mean, in everyday life, we all have to do various things. I'm monitored by the FCC and people within my own station to make sure, I'm not being subversive or cursing on the air or something like that. If you're a politician, the future of a lot of people you hold in your hand, specifically with your vote. So I believe, based on what I've seen in my short lifetime, that all Democrats should have to undergo psychological testing just to determine if they're clinically insane or not. Because some of the stuff they come up with, they'd have to be insane. We shut the government down, wasn't that big a deal, but for 72 hours over illegal aliens, over people that really aren't even supposed to be here. But because of abuse of executive power, a sitting president decided to change the rules. Now, granted, Trump went in and rolled back that executive order. Then on top of that, gave them until March. That's when DACA expires. So what I'm hearing coming out of it's just nothing short of nonsensical gibberish. It makes no sense whatsoever. It certainly doesn't benefit this country or those that live within her border. I mean, if you're a Democrat listening to me right now, it's very tough to argue the Democrat platform, which is how much stuff can the government give you and who can we take it from? And on top of that, let's bring more people in, so we have to give away more of somebody else's stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't know why this epiphany hit me today, but it did. The government of the United States is like a three-legged stool with one of the legs just about to collapse. So for my money, and there may be a Republican or two you can throw in the mix, but all Democrats need to undergo psychological testing just so we can assure ourselves that they're not crazy, they're clinically insane, aware of their surroundings. I'm serious as I can be. All right, Tony in Plano. Tony, thanks for waiting. I appreciate it. How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing wonderful today, and I always enjoy your show. You and the crew put on a great one.
Thank you.
I have a topic that might weave right into your sanity check, if you will, for not just Democrats but liberals as a whole. I'm starting. You know, we've heard all the surveys about whose fault this was from pick your media channel of choice. And, you know, obviously the left-leaning media said, oh, the Republicans are at fault. I'm starting to question a lot of these surveys. You're familiar in particular probably with YouGov.com,
right?
An online survey study. These surveys used to come to my inbox on a regular basis. And after I got about 8 or 10 in a row where they wanted to know if I was liberal or conservative, and I answered them all truthfully that I'm conservative, they stopped coming. And now I've wondered about this before, because the only time I've ever been one of the people that was called for a CNN poll, when I gave them the answer they didn't want, they hung up.
Yeah, are you surprised by that at all?
Well, free speech is only a one-way thing in the minds of most liberals.
In most liberals, it is. If
yeah, not all, but most.
You're absolutely correct. And like any good red-blooded American will tell you, hey, it's...
what does your sign say?
It says, kill Donald Trump, and then it says, kill Mike Pence, and then it says, it's guillotine time, bitches.
There you go. There's an American for you. It's guillotine time, fill in the blank. Yeah, didn't we used to arrest people that threatened the president's life? I think we used to do that. Evidently not anymore. We'd have to arrest, a third of the country. 217 the time. 1-800-288-WBAP. 1-800-288-9227. I'm serious. Wouldn't you sign a petition, an online petition, to require all Democrats working in the Beltway to undergo a psychological test just so we can assure ourselves they're not clinically insane?
What does your sign say?
It says, kill Donald Trump, and then it says, kill Mike Pence, and then it says, it's guillotine time, bitches. And I think that we should kill Donald Trump, and then we should also kill Mike Pence, because I wouldn't want him in office either.
Yeah, okay. I thought this was a women's march. Or maybe it was. Women that want to kill Donald Trump and Pence. Yeah, if you listen to that, I know people have just flooded my email. Where is that? Well, it's on my podcast page, but where's the women's issue in that? Let's go to Ann. Ann in Denton, I appreciate your patience. How you doing?
Hi, Rick. I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
And I was just watching some of the Women's March, and of course they covered it more than they did March for Life, which irritated me. But I was watching some of these women, and they definitely don't speak for me. But I was wondering where these DACA supposedly recipients is going to be. The only people, I listen to conservative radio, I listen to some of the others to see what they're saying, and I've never heard one of the recipients come on there and say, thank you, America, for all the welfare benefits. Thank you for educating us. Thank you for providing health care and providing this country for us. It's always been with the Women's March and demanding or burning the Mexican flag, burning the American flag, flying their flag, the Mexican flag, like they don't want to be a part of this. But I've missed this somehow about the appreciation for this country. So why would they want to be
There
here?
is no appreciation for this country.
Right.
People that are born here don't appreciate this country.
A
the
few, yes.
the only
about 50%, yeah.
the only people that have a true appreciation of what this country is are people that have traveled outside their own zip code, primarily in the military, and they realize, decent place to visit, but I want to put my head on the pillow in the good old USA. Those people signed a contract to die for this place if they needed to. They didn't want to, but that's the contract they signed. Just like that idiot that I just played. She's been given so much for so long for so little, if anything required of her. She doesn't even know what she's got.
Well, it just infuriates me when I see these idiots on TV, including Jane Fonda and all the ones that has reaped the benefits from this country, and how ignorant they are and how quickly we can lose our freedom. And but I just have not seen, supposedly, the people who are demanding about DACA come about the appreciation for the country. And I said, surely there's a few of them out there. So if any of them
there
listening,
are. As a matter of
hear.
fact, I talked to a guy, oh gosh, it's been a couple of weeks ago now. His grandparents came here, and then his parents came here, and he came here. That guy flies an American flag. He's red, white, and blue all over. Everything he's got's got the flag on it. He loves this place, and there are people like that. But unfortunately, the mainstream media, or as I call them, the lamestream media, that's, if it bleeds, it leads. Find somebody that has nothing good to say about the president, nothing good to say about the country, nothing good to say about anything, and we'll do an expose. They don't want to talk about what makes this country great. Good call. I appreciate it very much. And 2:26, the time will step aside. Clayton Neville is standing by in the WBAP newsroom. We'll check the very latest news. Also, your afternoon drive, and back with your call. Not called, but calls. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. I'm Rick Roberts. You're next. All right, 2:34 the time. Hope you're doing well. This just broke about 17 minutes ago on CNN. What I do for you. I immerse myself in the muck and the mire of CNN and MSNBC and all the rest of these worthless supposed news gathering stations, just so I can keep you on top of things. Yeah, I don't mind. I'm ferociously protective of my audience, and I don't like it, when things go by and we don't even get a chance to talk about it. Well, I told you we're going to put forth an online petition. Bus drivers have to take drug tests. Pilots have to take tests. Their air traffic controllers have to undergo stress testing. All of this stuff. So why shouldn't Democrats have to undergo psychological testing just to make sure they're not nuts, based on what I've been seeing come out of D.C.? Maybe a few Republicans thrown in for good measure, but certainly all Democrats. And the first one I would test is this guy, Chucky Schumer. Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer withdrew funding for President Donald Trump's border wall over the immigration issue with the White House. Now, this is coming from a staffer who works for Schumer. Called the White House yesterday, late in the afternoon, and said the proposal which Schumer put on the table. Remember on Friday when Trump invited this guy to the White House so they could have a long discussion. Yeah, he invited him to the White House over lunch to negotiate a deal for funding the government, which was being held up over a fight for commitments to address the expiring Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA. I think it expires in March. Don't know the day. Well, the invitation came as a surprise to many of the Trump aides. As is often his practice, he told a few people, but not everybody, that Schumer was coming to the White House. When they met, they discussed the consideration of military funding far above the White House request. And by the way, the military still gets paid even with a government shutdown. Their pay's late, but they still get it. That changed. Congress changed that in 2013. Anyway, I digress. The border offer went beyond what was included in the bipartisan plan conceived by Senators Dick Durbin and Lindsey Graham. So evidently, Chucky Schumer bit off more than he could chew at lunch, and they called to withdraw the offer. In exchange for strong DACA protections, I reluctantly put the border wall on the table for discussion. That's what Schumer said at the time. Even that was not enough to entice the president to finish the deal. All right, everybody's pointing the finger at, well, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. No, it's your fault. First of all, psychologically test all Democrats working in the Beltway. I think you're going to find about half of them need to be committed. But even the media agrees. The Democrats lost the government shutdown fight, such as it was. It's nuts. It's crazy. Evidently, the far left said, "Sorry, Chucky, we're not rolling this way." And I don't think Trump's going to give it up either. If he does, he's going to lose a big part of his base. I don't think he'll do that this close to midterms. Rob in Weatherford. Rob, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Rob?
Hey, great, Rick. How are you?
I'm good.
Hey, listen, I get a thrill out of what's going on because I think we're seeing the first fruits of the death of the Democratic Party as it is. For 40 plus years, the liberal wing of the government ran the liberal narrative for the country, and the media jumped on board. Hollywood jumped on board, and it's been that way for the longest time. But in the last year, say post-Trump becoming president,
right,
all of a sudden Hollywood and the media, who think they're Hollywood, took over the narrative, and where the Democrats made a disastrous mistake, and I think this whole government shutdown thing is showing the first fruits of it, is they decided, okay, we're going to let Hollywood and the media run the narrative now. We'll jump on with them. And that's the beginning of their end, because, most of the country, most common sense Americans know those people are nuts.
Oh, they are crazy. They're just loony as they can be.
So anybody thinking 2018 elections, Congress is going to be retaking the House or the Senate by Democrats, I think that's a laugh, because I think they're going to continue to die based on what's going on, especially now that they're letting Hollywood media run the narrative. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks.
No, I think you're right. I appreciate the call. I also believe we're at a crossroads in this country. We can take one road that will certainly take us to the pit of ruination. It's where all the liberals live. I don't mind being liberal once in a while. Go ahead and get another rack of ribs. That's fine. Who cares? But when it comes to something as important as taxes and employment and home ownership and job creation, and I'm a little more conservative in that realm. Do you follow me? Just a little bit more conservative. And I'm really, really bothered, by, we're having a women's march, Rick. Did you know that? No, I didn't know that. Yes, Saturday. We're marching in Dallas. We're marching in San Francisco. We're marching in L.A. And don't forget New York and Chicago. And, oh, my God, okay. I almost went on a rant there. And it's going to be a great time. As a matter of fact, here's one of our participants right here. Here she is.
What does your sign say?
It says, kill Donald Trump, and then it says, kill Mike Pence, and then it says, it's guillotine time, bitches.
Yeah, right. That's good. That's real good. Nothing represents the female gender better than a young, stupid girl with a sign that says, kill President Trump. Do you think she got a talking to? Probably not. Probably not. It's, this whole government shutdown thing, I think, has just brought to bear how ludicrous the running of the government is. And I know, I lived there. I trained people to be on the air and was on the air myself. And as a matter of fact, Rachel, I think, is still on the air with, oh gosh, well, you probably hear Rachel Sutherland. She's, we worked together for a while. It's a goofy place. It's unlike any place you've ever lived or visited or heard about. It just, up is down, down is up. It's like George Costanza's backward world. That's what it's like. Because they live in a bubble. They worry not about money, except how to get more of it from you. It's just a totally different thing. And it doesn't work, at least not lately. Frank in Duncanville. Frank, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Frank?
Hi, Rick. How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
You
this
bet.
Is my first time calling anybody.
Well, thank you.
No, that's great. I enjoy you. The thing I like about you, you never get upset with anybody. You listen to everybody. You explain everything pretty well. Unlike that guy, Michael Savage, that gets kind of crazy sometimes, So,
Michael's
really
okay.
enjoy
He
that.
just, he looks at the world through a different filter. That's all.
I know, but I listen to him once in a while too. And the question I have for you, and I know they keep talking about this DACA that's going to expire on the 5th of March.
Yeah, it's March. I don't know when.
What exactly does that mean? When expires?
Well, their deportation deferment. In other words, after March 5th, they will be eligible to be deported.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that was an executive order that the poser-in-chief, came up with. Those things are easy to unwind. That's what Trump did. But then on top of unwinding it, he gave them until March to, get their ducks in a row. And so supposedly, they're eligible for deportation in March.
Now this bill they've been talking about where Trump wants a wall, somehow DACA got into the bill. Was it introduced by somebody, and why was it allowed to be added on?
Because the people that are psychologically unfit to hold office, the Democrats, said, whoa, you need a few more votes than you got there, partner. I tell you what, we'll vote for that. It's okay. Let me just say this, Frank. There's a restaurant just north of the Capitol, just on the other side of the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank. It's called the Capitol Grill. And you can go in there anytime after about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Their specialty is a Reuben sandwich, and it's quite good. But you can go in there just about any time, and you see Republicans and Democrats having their 3 martini lunches where they're working out, listen, you got something going to the floor? I'd like to shirt tail, blah, 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 whatever it is, on your bill. Now, if you let me shirt tail my legislation on your bill, I'll let you shirt tail on, that's the way it works. So the Democrats came up with this, whoa, wait a minute. We're going to need all these illegals voting next time around, certainly at the midterms. Let's put up a big show. We're willing to shut the government down to take care of you people. Now we need your vote. We're not getting the black vote anymore like we used to. We need new blood. That's how it happened, Frank. Well, that's the condensed version of how it happened. 2:44 the time. Let's check your afternoon drive. All right, 2:49 the time. Remember, do you recall mad cow disease? Yeah, there's another one out called mad deer disease or something, which really bummed me out because I love venison. But in any case, mad cow disease, yeah, it was a big deal for a while. Now we've got mad liberal disease. Mad liberal disease, glassy eyes, stuttering speech, an uncanny resemblance to Nancy Pelosi. It's something that we need to stamp out. Now, maybe we have to come up with a telethon or something. But I'm quite serious when I say we need an online petition to have every Democrat undergo a psychological test of some sort just to confirm that they're not just crazy as they can be. Because it makes no sense what they're doing. The LA Times, not that you need to read it, but the LA Times came out with something that I shouldn't be surprised. I shouldn't. Jerry Brown, formerly known as Moonbeam Brown, believe it or not, he signed, this has been a while back, Assembly Bill 1461, the new Motor Voter Act. Personally, I don't think we need to be making voting easier. There should be some movement on a voter's part to get up and go do something I believe that we're honored to be able to do. But this will automatically register people to vote through the DMV. Any person who renews or secures a driver's license through the DMV may now register automatically as a voter. So they started giving illegal aliens driver's licenses a long time ago. As a matter of fact, Governor Gray Davis in California came up with that idea, trying to hold on to his job. Didn't work. He was recalled. So if you're an illegal and you are the beneficiary of one of these licenses, you are now automatically registered to vote, even though you're an illegal alien. And I'm not making it up. The California Democratic Party knew exactly what they were doing, as a Public Policy Institute survey showed. Among unregistered adults, 49% lean toward the Democrat Party, 22% toward the Republican Party. So any bill permitting illegal immigrants to vote would cement the Democrat hold on California. Not that that's ever going to change. I have no illusions. I'm not living under the illusion that somehow California is going to come to its senses and start voting for Republicans. But, there are some safeguards we probably should enact to keep non-citizens off the voter rolls. But California doesn't care about that. Election integrity? Nah, don't need that. AB 1461 will effectively change the form of how California is governed. From a republic whose elected officials are determined by United States citizens and will guarantee that non-citizens will be able to participate in all California elections going forward. So there you go. The thing that you were worried about, well, what if illegals vote? Well, they're probably in California, I would imagine. Although non-citizens' driver's license in California features the phrase, federal limits apply. That's on their license if they're illegal. I mean, why are you giving a driver's license in the first place? It says right on it, federal limits apply and not valid for official federal purposes. Well, isn't a federal election a federal purpose? I think it is. True, the vote, spokespeople are pointing out that state officials specifically chose not to make non-citizen license holders searchable in their DMV database. So we're going to do it. We know it's not right, but we're going to do it in such a way as you can't ever find out who they are because they're not in the database of the DMV. Unbelievable. You know what? We're building that wall in the wrong place. It needs to go north to south all along the California border. That's where that needs to be. I guarantee you.
This is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820, WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
Cinda, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Cinda?
Oh, well, I was fine until I started listening to those ignorant people. I have never in my life been so enraged. grown people that you think should have some type of intelligence to call abortion. A woman doesn't have a right. She has a right not to have sex if she doesn't want a child. And then, the last caller, she hit it right on. Lord help us if people cannot, they just can't control their ignorance, their mouth.
Yeah, it was something. It was
that is hate.
I'm not even sure if they know it's hate. I mean, they are so oblivious to what's going on around them. If you don't like the president, I get that. You don't call for him to be killed. You don't call for babies to be killed a week before delivery. I mean, I don't have a clue I don't even think they knew why they were there.
And none of them could say why they felt like they did. It's because Susie told them something, so they just believe it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cinda, this has been a great call. All right. That was Cinda. Yes, I will get to that. I will get to it at some point today. I promise. The thing that made everyone hyperventilate. The women's march that wasn't. The women's march that wasn't. It was more about Trump. And, I go back to the same thing. Why do people hate the guy so much? I don't know. You're working. You keeping your house. We're not spending money hand over fist. No more new regulations without getting rid of the ones we have. We've got a decent guy in the Supreme Court. I mean, it just goes on and on and on for days. But these mud puddles out there passing themselves off as intellectuals, they don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. Steve in Ennis. Steve, thanks for waiting. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Thank you again, you and David, for letting me get on and bothering you a little bit.
No, that's fine.
Had a thought, since all this has come up about these people from California. Could it possibly be that maybe they are Schumer and Pelosi larvae?
I don't know. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all the pod people. Yeah, I don't know. I have no clue.
Okay, well, I'll just be quiet and listen now, but I just thought I'd throw that on you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for that mental image, Steve. I appreciate that. I don't know what their problem is. Well, I do know what their problem is. They are the base for the entitlement generation. That's why they needed, puppies to pet and hot chocolate and safe rooms in colleges and universities, pony rides to relieve their stress because Trump was elected. I'm not making any of that up. All those things happened when Trump was elected. And now it's just getting worse. Because the Democrats, quite honestly, they don't know what to do. Hillary's yesterday's newspaper, and you know what you do with yesterday's newspaper. They have no direction. They have no plan. They have no strategy other than whatever the Republicans say the opposite. That's not what the founding fathers had in mind. The founders did not have in mind what's going on in our nation's capital today, did they? You don't even have to be a world historian or anything even resembling that. This is not what the founders had in mind. It wasn't about who had the biggest king. I'm reminded, it sounds silly, I'm sure, but a neighbor kid and myself, every winter, we would get just tons and tons of snow, and we would make snow forts. And you probably don't do that anymore because it's, dangerous. But we'd make snow forts, and then at night before I'd go in, I had made up all my snowballs and lined them up behind my fort. Well, then I would take the hose and I would water down my fort and the snowballs. So the next day they were as hard as concrete blocks. And we would throw them at each other. No, I'm not advocating you hurt someone. But I'm thinking to myself, that's what the D.C. is like. It's like they both have snow forts, Republicans and Democrats, and they're trying to knock each other's heads off every chance they get. Well, that's fine, except you're there because of us. You're there because you're supposed to be serving us. You may disagree on various pieces of legislation, but when the dust settles and the shouting's done, you're supposed to be working on behalf of the American people. And that we haven't been doing that in the nation's capital for a long, long time. It's all about the party. It's all about the win. It's all about the corporate bottom line. It's all about money. It's not about us anymore. We're expendable. It's sort of like the Democrats when they couldn't use overt racism to control the black vote. They switched to covert racism, which was instead of, scaring them to death with the KKK, we'll just make them dependent on government in every conceivable fashion, and still the same result, controlled the vote. That worked for about a half century up until Hillary. Then they realized, wait a minute. I'm getting a turkey at Thanksgiving, a toy at Christmas, and these guys are driving off in new Escalades to the suburbs where they live in a new house. What are they doing for me? Well, now the Democrats have played that one out. Now they got to find another voting bloc. Welcome illegal aliens. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Jesse in Fort Worth. Jesse, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Man, Mr. Roberts, you came up with the greatest thing that I could say. As I said to your call screener, you want to dismantle all statues that are contributed or attributed to slavery.
Right.
They need to dismantle the Democratic Party. I'm serious.
You're right. You're right. I never thought about it from that angle, but you're right.
But the swamp is being drained. Now, these are just little tadpoles, the media, the late-night entertainment. They just tadpoles compared to Donald Trump committing himself to draining the swamp. That's why these people going crazy. These are the same people that basically shrouded Obama, that never criticized. They couldn't tell a joke about Obama.
Right.
Without losing their job. I mean, I think we had a clown that did something at a rodeo, got him fired because he mocked Obama. These people have been controlling this country for 10 years, because Bush kind of became a wartime president, so he allowed his minions to basically control stuff that really messed him up. But the people that was controlling Obama, he was only a face. And if you speak against that face, you are racist. You are prejudiced. And that's the only reason why. And they at Hollywood, they shielded him from all criticism. But Trump, you can't touch him. This man, like I said, this man been being secure. People have been watching him all his life. People are protecting him that you don't even see. The doggone security that he have as being president don't mean nothing to the people that protect him all his life. And they criticize him for the past. He was a Democrat till he was 67 years old.
Yep, that's right.
He was a Democrat. And they loved him. And now he's on the other side. His eyes was open.
Well, as soon as he switched snow forts, they were against him.
That's right. And you hit him, he gonna hit it back. Now, I don't like all his tweets, but that's everything they criticize him. They think it's funny, but it's not funny. To me, for me, that's why I voted for him. That's why I voted for him, because he hit back. The Republicans that have been in charge all these years did not hit back. Bush didn't even hit back, and they were ridiculing him for 8 years. He never hit back. Trump hits back. That's why I voted for him. And like I say, his tweets, sometimes I'll be like, oh, man, why did he say that? God, no.
I know. Well, but, we wanted the message that was sent by the people that installed this non-political politician was, we're sick of politics as usual. We're sick of you telling us whatever we want to hear to get elected. Then when you get to D.C., you do what you want anyway.
Yeah, and think about it. Like I say, building the wall is interfering with the drug trade. That wall will interfere with the cartels who basically runs the government in Mexico. That's why it is so angry of him building that wall, because it will filter the flow of drugs and illegals coming into this country. and it's going to affect the drug cartel. And if any government official in Mexico act like they support and building that wall, they're going to lose their family and themselves probably.
You're probably right, Jesse. You're probably right. I got a question for you though. How did you get to this point politically when the black community, almost to a man, have been voting for Democrats for the last half century, thinking that somehow, some way, if they vote for a Republican, they're going to end up in shackles again? I mean, that was a big Democratic lie they used for a long time. How did you get to this point?
Well, I'm 59 years old, and I was put out at the age of 16 by an abusive stepfather, and I've been on my own ever since. But I always listened to Democrats, and they act like they had my best interest at heart. And every time election come around, it's still the same thing. Nothing's changed. You just done got your office.
Yep.
Well, the Republicans, I guess that's that old saying, the Republicans, they're going to tell you, here's your fishing rod, go get your fish. But the Democrats say, here's your fish and stay where you are.
Right.
And so I always had a dream and a desire to have a brick home and 2-car garage. And I've had to work hard for that all my life. And I done had it probably 2 or 3 times since. But at the same time, I don't like nobody calling me mental retarded because I don't have enough sense to go get an ID card if I want to go vote.
Oh man, Jesse, I could talk to you forever. Yeah, that last comment, one of the Democrats' main objections to showing photo ID when you vote is that, well, black people just don't have access to the same stuff white people do, and you're just going to be it's racist to ask a black person to show a photo ID. No, it's not. It's not racist. It's we are going to end up just like in Iraq. Do you remember the first open elections they had in Iraq? Everybody with the purple fingers, and they were all lined up, and there were snipers on the roofs of the surrounding houses. And, they'd all be lined up for about 3 or 4 blocks, and then sniper fire, 1 or 2 would fall. They'd all scatter, and then within an hour, they were right back. I mean, that's how much it meant to them. A free and open election where they could control, to some degree, their own destiny and that of their children was enough to get them to stand in line like sitting ducks for snipers on rooftops just so they could show that purple finger. And what are we doing? We're not even moving our fat butts out of the Lazy Boy and the bag of Cheetos. I can't miss the new Survivor. Is that even still on? I don't know. Can I phone this in, or isn't there a keystroke on my computer? Or, gosh, there ought to be some way to do this where I don't miss my shows. I mean, that's how bad it's going to get to the point. Other states are thinking about following suit with California, where when you get a driver's license or renew your driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote unless you opt out. Well, I was born at night, but not last night. Give me a break. I mean, we're going to get to a point in this country where nobody's going to vote. It won't be worth anything. There'll be 2 parties controlling everything, and we'll be sitting on the sidelines going, what happened? What happened? All right. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Your calls straight ahead in the court of public opinion. All right. White House spokesman Sarah Huckabee Sanders is saying, I don't believe the parties are that far apart on the immigration debate. Hey, you know what? We need a citizen representative. Well, we're far apart. You're supposed to be doing what we want you to do, aren't you? Yeah, let me get to your calls. Let's go to Fred and McKinney. Fred, how you doing?
Doing fine, Rick, and y'all?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Listen, the question about why do all these folks hate Trump, the answer is very simple. Because he's rich. And the Democrats have for I don't know how many years preached that if you're rich, you're after everybody else's money. You know something, Rick, what I find humorous about the Democrats is that when Trump got the tax thing passed, They said it's only going to benefit the rich.
Right. Rest of us get crumbs.
Rick, they are the rich.
Yeah, I know. Pelosi's.
I've never heard such unbelievable garbage. Here they are whining about the rich are going to get a tax break. Why are they crying? Because they're the ones going to get it.
Yep. Yeah, to those people that were getting $1,000 bonuses and got their minimum wage raised voluntarily by the companies, Pelosi can call those crumbs. They may be to her. She has a vineyard in California. She's a multimillionaire. But, that means something to working families.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
One other thing, Rick, and then I'll get off. It's been said that if you don't study history, you're bound to repeat the errors of history.
Right.
And you know what? Hitler said, if you'll tell a lie big enough and long enough, they'll start believing it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what the Democrats did when they shifted from overt racism to control the blacks to covert racism, which LBJ said, and I'm quoting, not my words, Lyndon Baines Johnson, when he signed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, they were trying to figure out, well, how do we control the vote? We can't, the KKK, that worked for a while, which, by the way, was started by the Democrats. Those radical Republicans, they're getting in the way. They called Republicans radicals because they were for giving citizenship to freed black men. So what did LBJ do? Let me sign that civil rights bill. He said, and it's been recorded for posterity in his biography, I'll have those N-words voting for Democrats for the next 200 years. Well, he got a quarter of the way there. They've been voting almost unanimously for Democrats for 50 years, but that's come to a screaming halt, all right? Democrats can't play that game anymore. 3:25 the time. Man, I am getting swamped with email about the Women's March on Saturday because I took you there by virtue of Man on the Street. I'll get to it. I promise you I will get to it. And I'm going to get to it earlier so I've got more time for your response, all right? I'll do that in just a little bit. I promise you. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. I'm Rick Roberts. This is the Court of Public Opinion. All right, 3:33 the time. Nicer day today, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, plus it's Tuesday. Let's go to Rob. Rob in Louisville. Rob, how you doing?
Doing good, thanks. Couple points. One is when I was with the Marines, every time I came back from deployment, I felt like dropping to my knees, kissing the deck, and saying, "Thank God I'm American." But one question I'd like to see pro-illegals ask is there any point at which they would be okay with ceding the Southwest United States back to Mexico? That would be a 10-hat, statement 10 years ago, but I think now it's probably pretty relevant.
No, it is relevant. As most people know, I broadcasted out of San Diego and Los Angeles for a while. I made them fly me home every 10 days. I would do so much time there, then they'd fly me back 10 days later, and I'd do the show from here and back and forth. Did that for 16 years. I said, yeah, I'll take your money, but I'm not going to raise my kid in La La Land. But at the same time, I had my run-ins with Luis Gutierrez and La Conquista, which is a open borders group, and
Reconquista.
Reconquista. And they truly believe they own part of California, Nevada, Arizona, and they're not going to take no for an answer.
Texas.
Yeah, and part of Texas, yeah. And that's, that's truly what they believe. And, I don't know what part of you've been conquered by an invading army they don't understand, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter other than to get a bunch of young people ginned up that don't know anything about history.
Well, we for my country. I'm worried. I really am worried about my kid's future.
Yeah, it's not a good thing. It's what I'm seeing is not a good thing at all. Because, quite honestly, if we had politicians that truly cared about us, that would be one thing. But we do not have that. We don't have that at all. We've got something.
What are you Democrats thinking? I mean, it's crazy.
Well, that's why I said at the top of the show.
Well, that's a good point.
All Democrats need to undergo a psychological exam, because I guarantee you about a third or more would be certifiably insane and therefore not qualified to hold office. Then I think you could probably name the ones. But first of all, I want to thank you for the service to your country. That means a lot. And if you listen to the show, I'm not just blowing smoke, but I mean that sincerely. And he's right. We should fear for our country. We should be fearful. I said it earlier. We're at a crossroads. We're at a juncture, and I don't know exactly which road to take. I know it's not the Democrats' road. I know it's not the liberals' road, but we've got to do something. Let's go to Baker in Louisiana. I think that's where he's calling from. Baker, where are you calling from?
Yeah, you've got it right, Rick. I'm down here by Hammond, Louisiana. I just wanted to share something with you right quick. This happened to me the other day. I was in, I was just north of Omaha, and, I'm eating breakfast, and, two of those Sprinter vans pulled in there, and people were coming out of them like a clown car at the Shrine Circus, and they're all lined up to get in the restroom, whatever. And anyways, I accidentally made contact with one of the gentlemen. He looked like he probably retired, 50s, 60s. He comes out of the bathroom and he speaks, says hello. I said, well, hey, so where are all you guys off to? I didn't know if it was a church trip or what. And
sure.
We're going to an anti-Trump rally, and I was like, wow, and it caught me off guard. I said, what? I said, did you say a rally? He said, well, it's a women's march. He said, but us guys are going too. But my point where I'm going with this is...
wait a minute. Rick, he was going to the women's march, which he was interpreting as a anti-Trump rally. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. And to me, there was a lady that came out shortly thereafter, and she had on a T-shirt that said Mueller time. It's Mueller time. And when I laughed, and and she's asked, and she said, well, actually, I had just about choked on my breakfast, and she was asking if I was okay. I said, yes, ma'am, I just saw your shirt. And she, I guess, assumed I was on her side, and she's just, oh, yeah, they're going to get them. I said, you do know they're going to get indicted, right? She said, oh, yeah, they're going to get Trump. I said, no, ma'am, I believe it's going to be the other way around. And it was at that point that the same guy that initially spoke with me, he came over and he said, come on, Sylvia, you don't have to listen to his meanness.
His meanness?
His meanness. Those were his exact words.
This is what I don't get. All of a sudden, the namby-pamby, weak-kneed Democrats, if you have a conversation that does not run... Well, I've even seen some of the emails. I don't know if they're Democrats or not, but, if I disagree with you on one thing, I'm not listening anymore. Okay, well,
right.
If you're a one-topic listener, then I can't help that. But since when is having a conversation considered to be mean?
Well, I can assure you, I had no different tone with any of those people than I have with you today on the radio. But, when I finally, I just stood up, and, these people are just looking at me like I'm from another planet. And I said, you people are going to, this women's march. I said, but it's really an anti-Trump rally, your words. I said, it's just amazing. And I walked right through the middle of them, and I left, and, But, Rick, I have one question for you, and I'll hang up and allow you to respond.
Sure.
But your background, though it's an oil and gas law, but you are an attorney, or were in a previous life, whatever. Is there anything that they can do to force this FISA memo to be released? Forgive me, because I speak from wealth of ignorance. I just don't know.
Somebody asked me if Trump had the ability to do that. And the problem is we don't know what the classification status is. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, we don't know how classified it is. We don't know what's in it. It's sort of like Nancy. Well, you have to elect a Democrat, then we can tell you. I don't know. I don't know what it is. There's several levels of, classified material, and then there's actually one above everything. I don't know how classified it is. I mean, that would answer the question as to, whether there was any way. I mean, certainly you probably couldn't get it through Freedom of Information Act because it is designated classified. But how classified?
Sure. Okay. Well, that does answer my question. Rick, thank you so much for your time. Love your show. Have a great day.
All right, my friend. I appreciate it very, very much. I suppose the U.S. Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court could get involved, and you could do something that way. But, you'd have to go through a select committee on the U.S. House of Representatives, I would imagine. I think it's, 702 or 706. It's a reauthorization bill, Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. They would, that FISA amendment, it's sort of a slippery slope. How classified is it? We ought to be able to at least get that as to what level of classification it is. The United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, also called the FISA Court, it's a U.S. To the best of my knowledge, it's a U.S. federal court. It's authorized under the Foreign Intelligence something or other. It requests surveillance. It has to do with warrants against foreign spies, United States law enforcement. To try and unseal one of those, I'm using this term loosely, not literally, an act of Congress. You have to make application. It's not an easy thing to get, number one. And number two, it's even harder to try and figure out what it is. But you have to, I don't know, is there any way we can figure out what the level of classification this thing is? That would answer that. This is twice I've been asked the question. Yesterday, somebody asked me if Trump could do that. Because of the very nature of information's gathering and things like that, and the secret court. Well, obviously the hearings are closed to the public. They do keep a record of what goes on, but the classified information is usually, when it's made public, it's so redacted, it's just nothing but black lines. Honestly, I have to agree with that. If it's classified in nature, usually only the attorneys that practice in front of the U.S. government are permitted to go before the court and take a look at this stuff. A heavily redacted version of one of these things. When was it? It was 2007 or 8. It was an ordered issue with respect to NSA's PRISM program. I remember that because I made a mental image of a crystal in my head. It had been published for the edification of other people, and the identity of who was making the appeal was declassified in June 2013. And literally, out of 2 or 3 sheets of paper, you got maybe 15 words. The rest of it was redacted. So I don't know if it would help us or not. That's a long way to say I'm not sure. All right. I appreciate the call very, very much. Let's go to Randy in Plano. Randy, thank you for waiting. I appreciate it.
Rick, I think I have a story that will explain a bunch of your questions about what's going on with the Democrats.
Okay. I thought they were just crazy. So that was my idea.
Well, okay. Here we go. I went through some marriage counseling about 8 years ago, and the guy said I needed to take a personality test. And the results were that I found out I was an ESTJ.
You were what?
And an ESTJ.
What is
Extrovert
that?
Using your senses. Extrovert uses your senses, thinking, and judgment to process information. They define your personality as how your brain processes information.
Okay.
And they told me to look up online what this meant. And there's like 5 or 6 traits, but the one trait that was most interesting was that ESTJs don't understand that not everybody processes the way they do. And there's 16 different combinations for the personalities. So we're back in his office the next time.
Good Lord,
And
man, this is confusing already. It's like putting Mr. Potato Head together.
It has a great point.
Okay.
So we get to we're discussing all this stuff, and I said, now wait a minute, you're telling me that some people process information with their emotions instead of with logic and reason? And he said, duh. And I thought for a second, and I said, that's why we have Democrats. And it is why we have Democrats.
There you go.
They are emotional processors. The facts don't matter. If they think we ought to be doing something, then that's what we do, or what they want us to do, or make us do. It doesn't matter what it costs. And the point of the story is, that's what this whole stuff about accusing males of all these horrible issues are, because the key voter for Democrats to win a majority is that soccer mom who thinks kind of in a conservative direction. She's not a real conservative, but she leans that way.
Right.
She balances her checkbook. But all of this stuff about all these evils that men have been getting away with for decades is designed to appeal to their emotions, to vote against conservative thought and vote for all those ladies on the left who are crazy, but who they share that dynamic with.
I got you. I got it. You know, I can boil it down to one thing. Republicans deal in fact tempered with emotion. Democrats deal in emotion tempered with fact.
I think that's pretty close. I don't think they have much facts.
Well, of course not. That's why they're so often wrong. I still say we ought to put an online petition together to require all Democrats and liberals, for that matter, to undergo psychological testing just to make sure we don't have a bunch of clinically insane people working inside the Beltway.
But the problem is that most psychologists are liberals.
3:47 the time. Your call's next. Alexa, turn on Rick Roberts. Oh, come on, Alexa. Okay. See, it's I've been in the business much too long. If all you have to do is say, Alexa, play Rick Roberts, would you? Ah, come on, he's not that bad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's pretty cool, though. You can say, Alexa, play WBAP, and boom, there you go. All right, I'm going to play this for you after the top of the hour. Let's go to Jerry and Lucas. Jerry, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Show.
Thank you.
Just wanted a couple of things on. I don't know how long I can go here, but I wanted to throw in a couple of quick things. The FISA memo, or the big memo that everybody's talking about,
right.
The Republicans are talking about. This information was put together from intelligence and from the FBI, information where they've connected the dots. They've got names, they've got individuals, they've got situations all plugged in there already. So it bothers me that Republicans keep saying, well, we need to release the memo, but we can't do it. We're very concerned, we're very disturbed about this information, but, and nothing is happening. These people need to be rounded up. We got to clean this mess out at the FBI and Department of Justice. These people need to be handcuffed, perp walked in front of cameras, the whole 9 yards on their way to jail.
Well, here's the deal. There's been this is the third call I've received on this FISA memo. The Republicans in the House, they're hopeful. It's 4 pages. It's a memo. Allegedly, and I'm going to use their words, if you don't mind, Jerry, allegedly containing jaw-dropping revelations about U.S. government surveillance abuses. And
right.
they say it's going to be made public pretty soon. Representative, forgive me, Republican from Ohio, I've forgotten the name, told Fox, Joyce was the name, told Fox News on Monday that the Intelligence Committee is working on releasing the document, but warned that once Americans see it, they'll be surprised how bad it is. Really? We just went through 8 years of Obama, and you're worried about a 4-page memo?
Exactly.
So
I just don't get it. It's very frustrating to me, that this keeps going on, and I hear a lot of hand-wringing, a lot of talk, and just no action. These people are still working in positions of influence within the FBI and Department of Justice, and it seems that nobody is willing to take a stand and do anything about it.
You're right. The process of releasing memos like this could take up to, I don't know, maybe a month of Congress working days in and days out. I don't know why it takes that long. It puts if they go on that timetable, it puts the release around mid-March. But the documents release, it first needs to be approved from the House Intelligence Committee chairman. That's Nunez from California. He can decide to bring the committee back together. They vote on it. And then if there's a majority of the committee voting to release it, then it goes to the president. And then at that point, after the votes and everybody gets together, if he says yes, it can be released. But, it's not just something, hey, why don't you send this copies of this out to all the media networks? It doesn't work. It's not that easy.
Well, it just concerns me that it seems that Sessions, at Department of Justice, then you've got this Wray over at the FBI, and I still hear that these guys are stonewalling the whole process.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then they need to be, they need to get rid of them.
They need to, as my grandfather used to say, they need to be handled.
That's right.
Exactly. The FBI has asked for a copy of this thing like umpteen times, and they still don't have one. Listen, I got to break, my friend. I appreciate the call. That's Jerry from Lucas. When we come back, I'll take you to L.A. last Saturday, and I'll take your calls. Our News Talk, 820 WBAP.
This is the news and talk of Texas. Now, it's the Rick Roberts Show on 820 AM, 99.5 FM, HD2, News Talk 820 WBAP.
Well, I know there's got to be a few 100 million more like me, just trying to keep it free. Yeah.
Rick Roberts starts right now.
All right, 4:05 the time. Going to get to a couple of your calls. Then, as promised, you can stop emailing because I'm going to take you back to L.A. like I did yesterday. All right, I promise. Let's go to, where are we going here? Grant in Terrell. Grant, thanks for waiting. I appreciate it. How you doing, Grant?
I'm doing well, Rick. How are you?
Good.
I was just wondering on the document that you were previously talking about, we wouldn't have even had to have waited for this document to be released. It would have been leaked months ago if it would have been critical of Trump.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, if it's going to slam Trump, we would have probably already heard about it, right?
It just shows the bureaucratic nonsense that it has to go through in order to get when things are done correctly.
Well, Representative Joyce, I forgot his name earlier. He's a Republican from Ohio. He told Fox News, I think it was yesterday, or maybe, no, it was yesterday, I'm pretty sure, that the Intelligence Committee plans to work on releasing the document, but he warned that once Americans see it, we're going to be surprised how bad it is. Now, I'm thinking to myself, we've seen a lot of bad. In 8 years with Obama and then going through the first year with Trump, I don't know. I'm not playing the guessing game, but Joyce said he's personally read the memo twice, and it was deeply disturbing, as anyone who's been in law enforcement, or then he said any American will find out once they've had the opportunity to review it. But the FBI's been wanting to look at it, and so far they don't have it.
Well, I can understand why they wouldn't want to release it to the FBI. That's where most of the leaks have come from.
That's where most of the leaks come from. You're right. So,
all right, Rick, thanks for your time.
All right, man. I guess Representative Joyce and, 2, 3, 4 other conservatives have been pushing for the memo to be made public. So as he just brought up, it's probably not detrimental to Trump. They've suggested that it contains, this is their suggestion, that it contains damning evidence that the Obama administration used FISA, and again, I told you what that was, Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, warrants to spy on the Trump campaign as well as his transition team ahead of the president swearing in. But we've already talked about that ad nauseum, haven't we? I mean, maybe seeing it in black and white brings some reality home, but, I'm not going to be surprised. I'm not going to be tossing and turning and reaching for the Z-Quill to try and get a decent night's sleep. I mean, it's just politics as usual. So, we'll see. As a matter of fact, I hate saying this because I can't cite it, but Joyce, Representative Joyce, he hinted that the memo was so scandalous that termination would be the least of these people's worries, and suggested that some people may even be prosecuted. Who knows? What's his name? Matt Gaetz, I think it is. Where is he? Florida, I think. He called the memo jaw-dropping, demanding full transparency. But they say that about everything. The House, he says, must immediately make public the memo regarding the FBI and the Department of Justice. What I want to see is a transcript of the hidden tape that was recorded when the Department of Justice and Clinton were meeting on the plane. That's what I want to see. Because I guarantee you, it wasn't about, my grandson's got a new tooth, and, we got a new lawn dart set. We're having a great time with that. I'm not buying any of that. So, he did, our North Carolina Representative Mark Meadows, he described the memo as shocking and troubling. Okay, well, enough with the teases. Just go ahead and release it. He said, part of me wishes that I didn't read it because I don't want to believe that those kinds of things could be happening in this country that I call home and love so much. Okay, well, yada, yada, yada. That's more political speak. Representative Scott Perry of Pennsylvania, he said bluntly, you think about it. Is this happening in America or is this the KGB? That's how alarming this is, you'll see. So, they're saying now mid-March, maybe, unless one of these guys gives it up first, which I doubt. All right, 11 minutes after the hour. When we come back, by popular demand, I'm going to take you to downtown L.A. Not that you want to go there. I wouldn't either. On Saturday for the women. Well, it was called the Women's March, but after listening to these people, I would call it anything but.
I'm Christina Ray.
Christina, thank you very much. Did you hear about this? A couple that was caught on security cameras having sex in a Domino's pizza joint could face jail time for their obscene and disgusting acts. How many times a day do you think that happens in D.C.? Yeah, I'm going to run out and get a pizza. Yeah, okay, sorry. All right, 4:16 the time. Well, unless you were under a rock, you know that there was a National Women's March in Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, Dallas, Chicago, Detroit, New York, and it was all supposed to be about women's rights and, the issues surrounding women in general, which I thought, okay, well, following #MeToo with all the, the people that went down for sexual harassment, that would make sense. Well, if you don't know, Austin Fletcher also goes by the name Flecka on YouTube. You really need to look him up because I'm going to take you now. Last Saturday, a few days ago, you can stop emailing, all right, because I'm playing it again. This was the so-called Women's March this past Saturday, and then I'll take your response. Take a listen.
Hey, guys, it's Fleckus. This week, we're at the Women's March. Who am I here with?
Tom.
Hello, Tom. Tom, what brings you here today?
To protest Trump.
Very cool. And what are you protesting Trump for?
He's a conservative. I don't like conservatism.
Basically everything that he stands on as a platform, to be honest.
What about you? What do you disagree with Trump so far?
Well, I worked for a tribe for a lot of time, so about 5 years, so a lot of negativity towards the tribes. I'm not down with that. And also, just the bullshit.
What is the number one reason that everyone's here? Who am I here with?
Margaret.
Nat. Well, what brings you here today?
Everything.
All right, very cool. Favorite shirt of the day so far. What does it say?
Single taking or dismantling heteronormativity.
What?
I can't see the rest.
I do see a lot of great people here who do feel empowered, but you don't have to be empowered by hating other people, by hating people that don't agree with you politically, by hating the president. To me, that's not true empowerment. That's weakness in disguise of empowerment.
I got ahead of people because of my position as a white male. I think that the people that need to stand up are people that have the power to say something, like myself. And I think that's what's going to help change things.
So many creative people, tens of thousands of amazing signs. Imagine if we took that creative energy and that energy to create things and we built an ark or built a spaceship. We could probably be on Mars by now if we took this energy and put it towards something very productive.
What does your sign say?
It says kill Donald Trump, and then it says kill Mike Pence, and then it says it's guillotine time, bitches.
I probably wouldn't want to go on a ship built by the people here if the plan was to head to Mars, but I do know what you mean. What does it mean?
Must be so
I
proud.
think that we should kill Donald Trump, and then we should also kill Mike Pence, because I wouldn't want him in office either.
What are some of the racist things he's done that makes you concerned about him being the president?
I mean, the fact that he's repealed all these you
don't know.
Sort of stuff that's supposed to protect immigrants in this country.
You know, sort of stuff.
It's so hypocritical too. I mean,
we need any immigration reform though?
I don't want to speak on that.
When it comes to the two candidates,
Just
obviously
as
one was
well.
very establishment, one was an outsider. Do you think the outsider candidate might be something that we need? It might be the change the government needs?
No, I don't. I'm not against an outsider per se, but I don't think that because you're an outsider, therefore you're qualified.
What do you think makes Trump very unqualified?
Well, he's never been president.
But this is the president of the United States. This is someone who needs
Only
to think
previous
like a
presidents need
diplomat,
apply.
not an angry white man.
I'm not here to support somebody's capitalist, trying to make money off of the struggles of women and women of color and people of color in this country. I'm actually upset.
What is your ideal political or social structure?
I don't know.
Communist utopia, but I mean that's pretty hard to do.
When it comes to Trump in his first year, what do you think about what he's done so far?
He hasn't done anything, in my opinion.
As a business owner, the tax cut really just does enough to, honestly, it doesn't matter.
The economy is kind of irrelevant. I mean, the stock market was increasing before he came in. There's some, yes, it was.
I mean, the graphs are going like this.
No, it wasn't. I've got my full pension invested,
and it's probably made 30% this year. I'm sure
it's been increasing for the last 5 years. But
ever faster than it has recently.
The most recent increases are completely untrustworthy.
Everyone's been very kind, but I have to be honest, this is not a women's march. It is a pro-Democrat, pro-Obama, pro-Kamala Harris, pro-Cory Booker, pro-Obama, strongly anti-Trump, Planned Parenthood support group rally march. It's just not a women's march because it's only if you watch CNN and MSNBC and believe the Democrats, it's a march for women and men who do that.
Get women the same equal pay. Come on, that's a no-brainer.
I think the biggest thing that rings to me and a lot of these women out here, especially the ones that are interested in the economy, is the fact that women are paid drastically less by the dollar than men are. And I mean, that's basically out there by statistics.
We do not make far less than men. The majority of women, a lot of them, quite frankly, stay home. You know, they take on the hardest job there is, and that's being an at-home wife and mother. You know, there's different women who do different works and different things. So the whole idea that we're somehow at a disadvantage to men is ridiculous.
But when it comes to the wage gap, 77 cents to the dollar comes from median income for men versus median income for women. Doesn't account for the type of job, doesn't account for part-time or full-time, doesn't account for hours worked, doesn't account for degrees, doesn't account for a lot of different things that actually do play factors. If an employer wanted to save money, wouldn't they just hire women and pay them at the lower rate?
That's everyone should get paid the same If you're doing the same job, you should get the same pay. It doesn't matter.
Have you seen any of the counters that say the pay wage gap is kind of a myth?
Well, if there's anything the difference between pay wage, look at the pay between CEOs and the people that are doing all the fucking work.
I mean, that's true, but the CEOs are also taking on the risk and running the company, and you're getting paid whether the company makes money or not, right?
Hello?
I'm an archaeologist for a tribe, and, the tribal voice needs to be heard as well.
What are some things that are happening with the tribes that you want to share?
I don't think that they're being treated equally. They're being, let down, and they were the first people here, being a native myself,
What are some of the ways that they're being let down, or like what we can do to help them? What do you think of the comment?
He's got to go. That's all. It's just he doesn't reflect us. He doesn't reflect Los Angeles.
We should definitely try to be kinder to each other, but actions definitely matter more than words.
Absolutely. Some would say words are just words until action actually starts, because actions speak louder than words. But at the same time, words speak louder than actions, because sometimes it's the right thing to do.
Words are just words until action actually starts. And actions speak louder than words, but at the same time, words speak louder than actions, because sometimes it's the right thing to do.
John, overpass. February 4th.
I'm supposed to interview you.
They're not touching the mic.
The Democratic Party, liberal women, and this type of women's march, you don't own women. You don't own people of color. You don't own black people or Latinos or Asian people. You don't have a monopoly on people's race, and you certainly don't have a monopoly on people's genders. As long as everyone understands that and understands that you can be a woman, you can be an activist, you can be a good person of any race, religion, and gender, and not support all of these policies that they're kind of force-feeding people.
He's not supporting women-friendly legislation.
What are some of the things you're worried he would take away?
Well, health care, reproductive rights, for one, the right to abortion. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that's something that the government funds should be going to, a place that does do abortions, Planned Parenthood?
Planned Parenthood doesn't just do abortions. That's
their number one moneymaker, though.
No, it's...
It is.
Everyone I know that I've talked to has used their services. None of them had an abortion.
That's like such a small group of people to make a whole judgment on. I can give you the numbers. Planned Parenthood does a third of the country's abortions. They make the most money that they make from abortions.
Of their services.
And that 3% number...
You're lying.
I'm about to correct you. That 3% number counts every interaction with a medical person as a service. So if you go in there and get an STD test or go in there and get an abortion, it's counted as the same thing. That's why that number is misleading.
And of course, the anti-abortion side would have you believe that it's murder of babies, which is not true.
I'm a mother, and if that's your body and your baby and you have to do what's right, it's like...
All the way up to the third trimester, like the week before it's born?
That's not my choice. That's not my choice. It's the woman's choice.
This is an iconic image now. It's the woman in the American flag hijab, correct? Is this alluding to something that's going on in Iran, the protests in Iran? Is that part of the same thing?
No, it's the comments that the current president has made about Muslims.
You notice all these movements lead right back to the Democratic Party. It's like, we care about race, gender, and we own you, and vote Democrat. It's like, what? This all happened so fast. I loved women. Next thing you know, I'm in the booth voting for Cory Booker, even though he sold out to the pharmacy industries and squandered $100 million that were supposed to go to Newark schools. What happened to that, Mr. Booker?
Mr. Booker, do you think that using the hijab in an image like this would almost incite a bad feeling within like the Muslim community and Muslim women who are oppressed by the hijab?
So obviously I'm not Muslim, so I feel like I can't speak for Muslim women. But I did take a Middle Eastern Studies class this past semester, and one of the things I learned is that the hijab really got a negative image from white colonists.
There you
Another
go.
Fleckus Talks in the books. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. There is a new Fleckus Talks coming soon.
All right. I love this guy. If you get a chance, go to YouTube. Fleckus, Flecca. His real name's Austin Fletcher. All right, ladies, was that representative of your issues? Is that what this national march was all about? Good Lord, if that's the problem, we got a bigger problem in society than we do in D.C., and I didn't even think that was possible. All right, 4:34 the time. Glad you're along. 1-800-288 WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Well, if that's what the Women's March was all about, Why did they even bother? All they had to do was turn on MSNBC. I just played for you Man on the Street from this past Saturday, a couple of days ago, from the Women's March in Los Angeles. See, I thought it was something substantive. I thought it was a real deal. I didn't realize it was We Hate Donald Trump March. I mean, they probably just should have said so. More people would have covered it. Joanne in Burleson. Joanne, thank you for waiting. How you doing, Joanne?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
I just think that people need to stop calling this the Women's March. First of all, those people I'm a woman and they do not represent me. They come across too ignorant, and I don't want to be represented or be part of or anything to do with them being called women, and they're fighting for women's rights. They should be calling this the pro-Obama, the pro-Democrat march, the against Donald Trump march. I think we should have another march and call it the real Women's March.
Yeah, but see, they've already done that now, Joanne. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any women that would be represented by what I heard on that. Do you?
I really don't. I know it's not me.
I mean, to come back and say, okay, we were just kidding. It was really an anti-Trump march nationally. Now we're going to do the Women's March. What came out of this, if anything?
Nothing good that I can hear of or have seen or anything, because nobody had any substance to say. Nobody knew why they were out there. Nobody had any real reasons why they were marching. I think a lot of them feel that because they were out there, they're involved.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's all that matters. I'm involved. What are you involved in? I don't know, but I'm involved.
I mean, some of these people, especially the guys, just absolutely dumber than a box of rocks. I mean, they didn't have an answer to anything. They had their stats wrong. They didn't know what was going on. Tell me that the women's, I hesitate in saying the women's movement because that's, from a long bygone era, but please tell me the women got something out of this other than We Hate Trump.
Not that I know of. Seriously, I don't want to be put in the same category as those women.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have any of my values, any of my beliefs. They don't speak for me, and they came across so ignorant that I don't want to be part of that at all.
Well, if I were giving you the opportunity, last question, if I were giving you the opportunity to respond to what you just heard, and he interviewed quite a few people, if I were giving you the opportunity to respond and you could speak on behalf of the women's movement, what would you say about that?
Well, I would say we need to take a closer look to make sure that the jobs that are being put out there, the women also have just as great of an opportunity to get those jobs. Some of those jobs, I understand you have to qualify as far as like firemen to be able to pick up somebody, heavy as a certain distance or drive a certain distance. If they're not capable of doing that, I'm not for them getting those jobs. I think everybody should qualify, but there's some jobs out there that they should be able to make qualifications perfect for the women to be able to get some of those jobs.
Yeah.
And I do believe that some of those jobs...
I think if you're doing exactly, and I mean exactly, the same work, you ought to be getting the same pay. But if you're in a job where you got to lift 300 pounds and you're a woman that is built very slight, and I mean, obviously that's not something you can do on a continual basis, so it's going to pay different. But I mean, what I was hearing had nothing to do with women's issues whatsoever. One lady yesterday said, who's raising these people? I got a sign that says, let's kill Trump. I got another one that said, and then Pence, because I don't want him in office either. And what's your idea of a perfect scenario as far as a country? Communist utopia. These people can't even spell communist. This shows you what we are not teaching in the public education system. there was a big march for socialism again in California. And I did a man on the street out of what? I think there were 8 people interviewed. 1 knew what socialism was. 7 had no clue. Well, it's just a better way of, spending money so we don't have poor people. What? All right. 1-800-288-WBAP, 1-800-288-9227. Man, I sure hope that's not what women in general, and I'm not painting with a broad brush, but I really, really, really hope that's not what women in 2018 think of when they think of, all right, we need to march for women and women's issues. Okay, tell me why you're here. I want to kill Trump. Okay, well, answered that pretty quick. We'll step aside very quickly, check your afternoon drive, then right to your calls next on News Talk, 820 WBAP. All right, 4:46 the time. Well, if you didn't get a chance to make it to the big women's march across America, hopefully that was a glimpse inside what you missed. Depending on your point of view, you may have missed nothing. Catherine's calling from Burleson. Catherine, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Rick?
I'm confused.
You and me both. I'm a woman, and I raised 3 boys as a single mom, and I went through all the struggles. These women think they have struggles. I worked 2 and 3 jobs to support kids. I worked my way up in the company. As a single mom, I ended up making anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 more than most of the men that I dated a year. So their struggles, they don't have a clue what a struggle is. Most of them are taken care of by a man or by mom and dad.
I didn't hear anybody. Well, I started talking about the difference in the wage gap, if you will, between men and women, and that has come together significally in the last 5 years, at least, unless someone's lying to me.
I agree. I didn't hear it today in the car, but yesterday there was I believe it was a gentleman that was talking about the inequality,
right,
in pay, and it really frustrated me because honestly, as a woman, you can make as a woman, if you want to succeed in what you make more money, that's not on your boss, that's not on society, that's on you if you don't do it.
Yeah, but we're also dealing with a generation or 2 or possibly 3 that have not had the best. I'm not saying it's their fault, but they have not been the recipient of the best education around. And they have been given so much for so long for so little, if anything, required of them. They just expect it.
No, they do, and I think maybe I raised my kids differently. I raised 3 boys. I didn't raise them to be boys. I raised them to be men. I raised them to be somebody's husband, somebody's father, and that never left my sight. I think the parents have you have to blame a lot of the parents. You have to blame the colleges for sure. I watch a lot of cable news, and I'm just really shocked at the ignorance and the uneducated people in this world that go to these schools. The professors, I think a prime example was the professor that was on the news the other night. These are the kind of idiots that are teaching our children in school.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't make you mad, it really should, especially if your tax dollars are helping to fund these schools.
Amen.
So I don't know. And if I can go just a little personal, the assault thing, as a woman, that's a very private, personal thing to get on the news, to get in these marches and advertise and talk about and claim all this stuff. It's very embarrassing to me as a woman. I'm very embarrassed about this whole situation.
Yeah, it came about so quickly with Harvey Weinstein, and then it became organic and just took a life of its own. I mean, literally, hour by hour, names that you would recognize were falling like dominoes. And then it sort of kind of went away. Forgive my stellar vocabulary, sort of, kind of, but that's what it did. I mean, it kind of went away. And, you know, if those were credible allegations, you know, they need to be followed through with. But, you know, when a movement takes on a life of its own like that, you know you're going to sweep up some innocent people. Catherine, I appreciate the call very, very much. Let's go to Nikki. Nikki in Fort Worth. Nikki, thanks for waiting. How you doing?
Oh, no problem. I'm really excited that you're taking on these issues.
Thank you.
I think that being that I'm an older person, and in the 70s I was involved in a lot of these movements, I could tell by watching on the TV, because I was not going to go to the march, I could already see it was not going the right direction. There were issues such as child abuse, women's abuse. Those are still huge. They're really not, you know, taking the kind of support they need. Education, you hit that. That's all. Oh, I'm just amazed these women don't know better. And then when I see them in interviews, because I'm in a position to see them in interviews, they don't know how to interview. They don't know how to be as strong as a man in the interview. So they're seen as less qualified. That's another thing needs to be worked on. But like you said, the equality in pay has gotten one heck of a lot better. And I think it's taken a good march right now. I really think that's improving. But
that's what I thought this thing was about. I thought the march was building on something that was moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's called going in a positive motion, not in going into issues that are not helping us whatsoever. But child support, there's another one that hasn't got that much better. Then we look at, you know, there's just a whole lot of issues, especially for women. But, I mean, they reach out beyond women, but there's still a lot of issues that we could be working on through education, not in bad-mouthing everybody.
I agree with you 100%. Nikki, very, very good call. I appreciate it. Let me try to get one more in here. JR in Hearst. JR, thanks for waiting.
Hi, Rick. How you doing?
I'm good.
It's been a little while. Appreciate your show.
Thank you very much.
Here's one for the people that believe in socialism and communism. I've been to Russia 3 times. I've been to Ukraine 7 times. The first time I went to Russia, I was in a city of 650,000 people. I hadn't used an outdoor privy since I was 5 years old. I was shocked. All these, the USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republics, they're all third world countries. If these people think it's so great, move there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the USSR, I heard from somebody the other day, is the USSR still a thing? Yeah, it's the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, and you don't want to live there. What was it? I don't know who said it. I should know, but I've forgotten now. You know, socialism is a great thing until you run out of somebody else's money. You got it. You nailed it, JR. I appreciate the call. That's going to do it for me. Mark Levin, he's up next. I'll be back with you tomorrow at 2 in the afternoon. For the beginning of your afternoon drive with you Monday through Friday from 2 to 5. Hope to see you then. God's blessings on each and every one of you, whether we agree or not. That's always my priority. Not trying to cram it down your throat, but if you haven't tried it, you might be surprised. All right, that'll do it for me. Good job, everybody. Rick Roberts on News Talk 820 WBAP.
Soaking in the rain, baking in the sun. Don't quit till the job gets done. That's the only way I know. Don't stop till everything's gone. Straight ahead, never turn around. Don't back up, don't back down. A full throttle, wide open. You get tired and you don't show it. Dig a little deeper when you think you can't dig no more. That's the only way I know. That's the only way I know. That's the only way I know.